The audience inside the Kelly Clarkson show studio buzzed with energy that morning. It was supposed to be one of those cheerful, easygoing episodes, music, laughter, and a celebrity guest to keep things light. Jeff Dunham, the master ventriloquist known for his outrageous humor and sharp-tongued puppets, had been booked to promote his new comedy tour. Fans filled the seats, expecting jokes, not fireworks. As the theme music faded and the applause settled, Kelly greeted him with her trademark warmth. "Ladies and gentlemen, the hilarious Jeff Dunham," she announced, her smile glowing under the studio lights. Jeff walked out with a confident swagger, waving to the crowd, holding Walter, his most famous puppet, in one arm. Everything seemed perfect. Kelly began with easy questions, about his tour, his characters, and the wild world of comedy after decades on stage. Jeff was in his element, cracking jokes that made the crowd erupt. Walter delivered his usual grumpy one-liners, roasting everyone from celebrities to politicians. But then, Jeff went a little further. He made a joke that touched on a current, sensitive topic, a joke that landed differently in the room than he expected. The audience laughed uneasily, a few faces froze, and Kelly, she stopped smiling. For a second, it was subtle, just the flicker of discomfort across her face, but the cameras caught it. She adjusted in her chair, tucking her hair behind her ear, her laughter fading into silence. Jeff noticed. "Oh," he said lightly, turning Walter's head toward her. "Looks like I hit a nerve." The crowd chuckled, unsure whether to keep laughing or wait for her response. Kelly's voice came soft at first but sharp enough to cut through the tension. "Do you really think that's something to joke about on live TV?" Jeff's smile stiffened. He looked around, as if expecting her to play along, to laugh it off. But Kelly didn't. The moment hung in the air, heavy and awkward. The audience felt it too, the strange electricity when two people on stage stop performing and start feeling. Jeff leaned back slightly, trying to recover. "Well," he said, forcing a laugh, "that's what comedy's for, right? To make people uncomfortable enough to think." Kelly didn't blink, or uncomfortable enough to turn the channel, she said with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. The studio gave a nervous laugh. Even the band members shifted in their seats. It was the kind of moment that producers pray doesn't happen, unscripted, raw, and unpredictable. Jeff tried to steer it back. "Come on, Kelly," he said, half joking, half serious. "You've been in entertainment long enough. You know if we can't laugh about everything, we can't laugh about anything." He moved Walter's mouth, making the puppet grumble, "Someone's a little sensitive today." That did it. Kelly crossed her arms, her tone still friendly but edged with irritation. "I'm all for comedy, Jeff," she replied, "but there's a difference between making fun with people and making fun of them." The audience oohed quietly, sensing the rising tension. Jeff's grin faded, replaced by the look of someone realizing he'd lost control of his own show, and it wasn't even his. For the first time in his career, Jeff seemed unsure. He glanced toward the producer's booth, then back at Kelly, who sat tall, unshaken. "So I guess we're canceling humor now," he said dryly. Kelly's eyebrows lifted. "No one's canceling anything," she said calmly, "but maybe some jokes belong in the clubs, not on daytime TV." The air was thick now, no music, no laughter, just the hum of cameras rolling in a room full of people watching a storm build. Jeff adjusted Walter in his lap, muttering under his breath through the puppet, "Guess I should have brought the family-friendly set." The line earned a few chuckles, but the tension didn't fade. Kelly smiled tightly, trying to move the show forward. "Let's talk about your tour," she said, but her tone was clipped, her professionalism stretched thin. Jeff, still unsettled, hesitated before answering. His mind wasn't on his tour anymore. It was on the fact that, for the first time in years, someone had called him out, on national television. The audience could feel it too, the spark that would ignite the most talked about daytime moment of the year. Kelly's expression stayed poised, but her eyes said it all. The conversation had stopped being an interview. It had become a confrontation, and though neither of them knew it yet, that single uncomfortable exchange, just a few minutes of tension, was about to explode into one of the most viral clips of the year, replayed across social media, analyzed by fans and critics alike. In that studio, under the hot lights, the mood had turned from comedy to conflict. And Jeff Dunham, a man used to controlling the voices in his act, suddenly found himself silenced by the only one he couldn't control, Kelly Clarkson's. Jeff leaned forward, resting Walter on his knee as the tension thickened in the air. He'd faced hecklers, critics, and controversy before, but never a host questioning his integrity on national television. Still, he wasn't going to back down. "Kelly," he said with a practiced calm that didn't quite hide his irritation, "comedy's supposed to make people think. It's not supposed to be safe." The crowd murmured, some nodding, some uneasy. Kelly gave a small, polite smile, but her tone stayed firm. "There's a difference between being fearless and being careless, Jeff. You've been around long enough to know that." Jeff blinked, caught off guard. He tried to laugh it off, but his voice tightened. "You invited me here because I am fearless. That's why people come to my shows. They want the real thing, not the watered-down version that passes for comedy these days." The puppet Walter's head turned toward Kelly, his grumpy wooden face frozen in a scowl. Jeff made Walter speak, his tone mocking. "Looks like someone woke up on the wrong side of sensitivity." The audience gasped and laughed nervously, unsure whether to enjoy the joke or recoil from it. Kelly's jaw flexed. Just a flicker, but enough to show the hit had landed. "I think we've heard enough from Walter," she said evenly, keeping her composure. The crowd fell silent. For a moment, even the cameras seemed to hesitate. Jeff's eyes narrowed. "That's kind of the point, isn't it?" He shot back. "Walter says the things people are too scared to say. He's not supposed to be polite." Kelly leaned forward now, her tone low but sharp. "There's a difference between being bold and being disrespectful. People are watching this at home with their kids. There's a responsibility that comes with this platform." Jeff laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Responsibility? I make people laugh for a living, Kelly. I'm not running for office." The audience stirred again, some clapping, some murmuring. Kelly didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "You don't have to be a politician to have respect for your audience," she said coolly. "You've built a career off of humor, but sometimes the line between humor and harm gets blurry. Don't you think it's fair to ask where that line is?" For a heartbeat, Jeff said nothing. His puppet hung silent, almost limp, as he processed her words. Then, he smiled, but it was the kind of smile that hid a spark of anger. "If I start worrying about everyone's feelings, I won't have a job left," he said. "Comedy's not meant to please, it's meant to provoke." He lifted Walter again, the puppet sneering. "Besides, if people can't handle a joke, maybe daytime TV's the problem, not me." The comment drew a sharp intake of breath from the audience. Kelly's expression hardened. "Well, Jeff, I guess we see the world differently," she said, the warmth gone from her tone. "Because I think kindness and humor can exist in the same room." Jeff chuckled and leaned back, crossing his arms. "Sure, until someone tells a joke you don't like." The puppet nodded in exaggerated agreement. "Guess we're doing the cancel culture dance again." The crowd stirred, half in laughter, half in shock. The tension was undeniable now. Kelly exhaled, steadying herself. "This isn't about cancel culture," she said carefully. "It's about being accountable. When millions of people are watching, what you say matters." Jeff's smirk faltered for the first time. He looked at her directly, his voice lower now. "You think I don't know that? I've been doing this for 30 years. You don't survive that long without knowing what you can and can't say." "Then maybe that's the problem," Kelly said softly. "You're too used to not being challenged." The silence that followed was deafening. Even Walter's plastic grin seemed frozen in place, as if the puppet himself didn't know how to respond. Jeff opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The audience didn't move. They were watching two professionals, two people who lived in front of cameras, drop the act and show the raw truth underneath. Finally, Jeff laughed, but it was hollow. "Wow," he said, shaking his head. "I didn't realize I walked into a lecture." Kelly tilted her head, her expression calm but firm. "And I didn't realize I invited someone who couldn't take one." That was the breaking point. Jeff's face flushed as he set Walter down on the chair beside him. He looked around the studio, the cameras, the audience, the host who wasn't laughing anymore. The applause sign above the crowd blinked, forgotten. "Guess free speech isn't as welcome as I thought," he muttered. Kelly folded her hands. "Free speech doesn't mean free from consequences," she replied. "You're welcome to say what you want. And I'm welcome to respond." That line hit like a gavel in a courtroom. The audience didn't cheer or boo, they just watched, caught between admiration and disbelief. Jeff stood up slowly, adjusting his jacket. "Well, Kelly," he said with a strained smile, "maybe next time, you'll invite someone who knows how to tell a joke your way." Kelly held his gaze, unflinching. "Or maybe next time, you'll tell one that doesn't need explaining." For a moment, they just stared at each other, two worlds colliding under the glare of live television. Then Jeff gave a half smile, the kind that carried both pride and defeat, and turned toward the exit. The audience sat frozen, uncertain if this was still part of the act. But it wasn't. The air was real, the emotion raw. Jeff Dunham was done talking. And in that silence, the world of comedy had just drawn a new line.